groups who have rang bells that consistently. So I applaud you for those efforts. Thank you for all that you do. And so today I hope we'll give you a broader awareness of what your funds that you collect at Christmas help go toward. I want to start by giving you kind of a global view of the Salvation Army, because we're currently in 132 countries around the world. And then I'll zoom that in to what your Salvation Army here in Charlotte is doing. So in 1865, a married couple named William and Catherine Booth were not enjoying seeing the societal ills. They were seeing, young girls being trafficked. They were seeing drunk men lying in the gutters, literally. And their love for God prompted them to want to move into action. And so they combined their spiritual love for Christ with their desire to help humanity, and they created and birthed the Salvation Army. And because they firmly believed that they wanted to tell people about God's love, salvation, and they wanted to march forward as a group of volunteers helping meet human needs in His name, Army. So that's how the Salvation Army came to be. And so quickly after that, our movement started spreading around the world. And we landed in Charlotte in 1904. So we've been in Charlotte, North Carolina since 1904. And we're very grateful today to be able to continue 117 years later, meeting human needs on behalf of the community. And so some of the things that when you ring bells, I'm not sure you quite understand how impactful that is. Because in Charlotte, we have essentially 4 pillars of service that we provide. The first is our homeless services. So we have a 45,000 square foot facility on Spratt Street called the Center of Hope. And in the Center of Hope, we house homeless women and children, homeless veterans, and survivors of human trafficking. So in that location, we house approximately 250 people per night. In addition, we have been using for the past year various motels to house homeless families. And so we, on average, house about 650 to 700 homeless people per night. You may have seen recently on some news clippings where we've been awarded some funding from the county and city, and that is because our plans are to lease a hotel and move all of our families into one location called Hope Village, that we're going to call it. And so then we'll have Hope Village that will house our families, and then we'll have the Center of Hope that will house our single women, veterans, and survivors of trafficking. So that's an overview of what our homeless services do. So our hope for homeless services is that we will, because remember, when you become homeless, they often come to us on the worst day of their life. You know, they've just reached the point where they need help, and they reach out to the Salvation Army for that help. And so we begin by providing just basic needs: shelter, food, clothing. We get them to a point where they're safe, they're fed, and they're protected. And then our goal is to move them into what's called our transitional housing program. And that's where we start working with the parents on parenting skills classes, budgeting classes, how to cook proper, healthy meals for your family, how to develop a resume to join the workforce. And so then when they move from transitional housing, they go to our final phase called supportive housing. And that's where we have 60 apartment units at Hampton Crest that we partner with the county and various churches for. And we move those families there. And that's their last step before kind of re-entering society as independent families, where they have full employment, security, etc. So that's really the 3 elements. In other words, we don't want to stick a Band-Aid on the problem and just send them away. We want to work with them. We have case managers and social workers who work with them every step of the way, even beyond when they leave our supportive housing unit. And so that's an overview of our homeless services, and that's in part what your kettle collections help go toward. Secondly, we have our Boys and Girls Clubs. We have 8 Boys and Girls Clubs in Greater Charlotte. The Salvation Army of Charlotte serves Mecklenburg and Union County. So we have 2 Boys and Girls Clubs in Union County and 6 in Mecklenburg County. And those clubs are for youth grades 1st through 12, where they come to us typically after school. That's our normal schedule. And they're exposed to a variety of opportunities through the evening. Educational programs, recreational and sports programs, cultural activities. And the hope is that as they continue to grow and participate in the club activities, that they will, when graduating high school, they're called to be the people they're called to be, and not end up in prison and so forth. And so the hope is to work with them throughout their school years, in addition to the support they receive at home and school, and help make them productive citizens of society. This past year, our pandemic response had to change because of that. So a lot of our club members, our Boys and Girls Club members, are from single parent families. And those parents had to make the choice: do I work, or do I stay home and work with my child on their virtual classroom? What do I do? And we didn't want them to have to make that choice. And so we changed our hours. And for the past year, we've been open from 7:45 until 5:30. That allows the child to come to the club, log in for their virtual classroom for the day, work in the club in their classroom all day, and also enjoy the other activities we provide, while at the same time allowing the parent not to have to worry about securing childcare and so forth. And so each Boys and Girls Club member can join the Boys and Girls Clubs for $5 per year. And so it's a really good opportunity for people and their children to have be in a safe place to learn and grow. And that's our second pillar of service here in the community. Our third is called the Adult Rehabilitation Center. And that center is located on Central Avenue. Maybe you shopped at the thrift store. One of our thrift stores located there. Just adjacent to that is a large center that houses 120 men who are suffering from addiction. So any man who finds himself with an alcohol or a substance abuse addiction, come to our program. They participate in a 9-month recovery program where they attend counseling classes, self-growth classes, pastoral care, group therapy, and work therapy. And so when you go and buy a shirt or a pair of shoes from our thrift store, it's helping fund that program. And so you see how the connection is so important. And so those men, as part of their work therapy, also work in those thrift stores. And so you'll often see a lot of men working there, and that's because that's part of their work therapy. And so that's our third pillar. And our fourth pillar would be our Christmas and Emergency Disaster Services program. You're somewhat familiar with Christmas because you've done it for 45 years. So we have the Red Kettle program where we ring bells at various locations, and those funds funnel back to us to support all these programs I just told you about. And we also have our Angel Tree program, and that's a program designed to help provide Christmas morning for children who are in need, as well as senior citizens who are on fixed incomes. So we have the senior citizens element of it, where we provide all seniors on fixed income or below poverty lines with gift cards at Christmas. It's called the Silver Bells program. And your kettle money helps fund that as well. And that is where they can go and buy their prescription medications with it, or they can go and purchase food. They can go get clothing with it, whatever they need. But they receive a gift card in addition to a food box. And then the children, we partner with various individuals and corporations and clubs in the community who send gifts for the Angel Tree program. We process all those, get those ready, and we distribute those to the parents so that the children have something to open on Christmas morning. So I hope you can see what an impact your dollars make that you donate or that you collect at your Red Kettle location, because it significantly impacts our ministry and service here in Greater Charlotte. So the pandemic has taught us a lot of lessons, and we have had to readjust the way we look at our services. And now that it's kind of coming to a different phase, we're really looking at it like we do a natural disaster. So when a natural disaster strikes, the Salvation Army is often called upon to go and provide some immediate assistance. So we take our mobile feeding unit, we go feed first responders. We often work right alongside the Baptist Men and the Red Cross to help in any way we can to facilitate immediate services for those who are in need in disaster services. Then we move into a long-term recovery, and that's kind of how we're doing with COVID. We've kind of gotten through the height of the pandemic, and now our case managers are working with all of our families that we've been providing help for, and we're looking at it long term to see what we need to do to ensure that they find long-term employment and housing and school for the children and on, as you can see. And so that's kind of what we're doing right now in response to the pandemic with our homeless services. So that's a kind of a bird's eye view of what we do here in Greater Charlotte and what you help us to be able to do. And so from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for your selfless giving. And we're just so grateful to have partners like the Dilworth Rotary Club to make our mission move forward. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
That's the questions.
Yeah, I'd love to answer
So
questions.
let's get the questions from our audience, if you want.
Is the Spokes Group still part of the bicycle program?
Yes, Stokes Group is still part of the bicycle program. And that's another thing we had to change this year was our Christmas angel tree distribution. We typically have it inside of a kind of a large warehouse. This year we did more of a drive-through style, where the families were given a certain time and they drove through. It worked so well. And the Spokes Group still divides them. So when they picked up their angel tree gifts, we then sent them to the next warehouse where they got the bike. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. It is a live-in program. They do. Yeah. And we option them after 9 months. If they need to stay longer, they can. But through that time, they are working on, their 12 steps, and they're working on just kind of refocusing and realizing who they need to be. And so we have a lot of times where we bring their families in, for activities and events. And at the end, we have a graduation where they actually get to graduate the program. We do the same thing for the women in the supportive housing. When they finally make it to that stage, they go to the emergency shelter, the transitional housing, and then the supportive housing. When they graduate supportive housing, it's a big deal because they are now independent members of our society. So
Do you include an AA program in that?
we do. Yes. Yep. So we're right now.
So repeat the question.
Yeah, the question was, when do we plan to open Hope Village, which will be our second location for homelessness that'll house families. So we've completed the lease negotiations. We're entering into a lease with the option to purchase. So we'll begin leasing it probably July 1st or August 1st, and then we'll do our due diligence to explore the option to purchase it. And if we do that, it will be next June.
Charlotte had a question.
referrals for all the programs, like boys and girls, women's, how do you get referrals?
If you repeat the question too.
Yeah, the question was, how do we receive referrals for members of the Boys and Girls Clubs or the homeless shelter and so forth? So the Boys and Girls Clubs, it's an open membership. So anyone, regardless of your socioeconomic standing, you can bring your child and apply or just become a member. So that one's pretty open. But we also do, for the families that are in our shelter that have children, we give them a complimentary membership course. So they can enjoy those benefits as well. When it comes to our shelter, we have referrals, a lot of people. We will often get referrals from the Red Cross, who have been working with families that have experienced the fire at their home. We work with the police department. So when they maybe find someone on the street that needs assistance, they will bring them to us. Other agencies, we have to really maintain a really tight collaboration with other homeless agencies like the Roof Above and Block of Love and the Rescue Mission and things of that nature. So we work with them daily for referrals because while we primarily house women and children, Roof Above houses primarily men, and so each group, so we all kind of work together to collaborate because we all want to make sure that we're doing the best we can with the donor dollars we receive and the volunteer hours we receive, and so collaborations are really important to us. So that's how we receive a lot of referrals.
Do you have like lives touched or how many folks you're touching? Anything like that?
Yeah, we produce the annual report that kind of highlights, and on our website, salvationarmycharlotte.org, you can find everything we do here in Charlotte, including our financial records and our our annual report, which kind of gives those totals. I don't have them all memorized, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I do know that at Christmas time, which is one of your biggest contributions for this Rotary Club, we served 11,000 individuals this Christmas. So thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
so-
We had a question online.
Oh, great.
So
Kelly
Kel-
wants to know more about the hotel for families.
the Hotel for Families. Kelly wants to know about the Hotel for Families
Okay.
program.
He actually answered
So
it.
when the pandemic was at its height last March, April-ish.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay. But go ahead. Okay, good. I have a question. Yes.
He's not here today, but David Hotchkiss, who I'm sure you know, has probably been at all 45 years of that celebration. But I wanted to recognize him because he is a longstanding Rotarian. He's been a member for 47 years.
Exactly.
But my question for you is, do you have any metrics around the people that graduate from your homelessness program and go back into society? Do they stay there, or do you have any returning people, or how's your statistics on that?
Good question. Yeah, so one of the things we commit to doing is when a person graduates the supportive housing program, for example, we assign a case manager from our staff to them for 1 year. Because we don't want to just release them and not continue to provide support. So we essentially collaboratively follow them for a year, work with them, make sure that everything is going according to the plan they developed for their family. And we see a pretty high percentage rate of of success, well over 60%. We will often, it's not perfect, people fall apart again, people have downfalls, but and they sometimes come back and they sometimes don't. But it's a high success rate. Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions? Sorry. Yeah, let me get over to Pat here. Oh, so we go. There we go.
I'm curious. During the past year, which one of your pillars has one had much more increased demand and anyone's dropped? I'm assuming your Boys and Girls Club is number one. I'm curious if you've seen anything drop versus.
So what we've experienced during the past year is that we typically see a lot of single women or single women with a child or two children. We have had many more intact families this past year. And so that's what's forced us to develop the second location, because we simply can't house them all. We're housing 700 people a night. And our Center of Hope shelter safely will only house 250. So we had to come up with what we were going to do in order to not just say see you later to those other 400 people, but because they are intact families, we wanted to make sure that we were continuing to meet those needs. And so that's why this suburban lodge that we're looking at came into play, because they are efficiency units. So the family lives in the unit together, and it has a kitchen type element. And so it's really an ideal situation for us with the transitional housing element, because it's teaching them to get back on their feet, to cook for their families, to take the children to school, etc. So that's been one really big adjustment. Is we've seen a lot more influx of intact families as opposed to just single women. The Boys and Girls Clubs, theirs was more scheduling issue. We didn't want them to make those horrible choices of either not working, or childcare or not childcare. I can't afford this, So that was really more. We really focused more on the scheduling of that. So we consulted with the families a lot during this past year to make sure we were helping meet the needs of what was truly needed. And so as a result, we then developed partnerships with Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, where we can now feed the children while they're in the clubs 3 meals a day, so the parents don't have to worry about purchasing food and sending food and this and that. So those were adjustments we made for the clubs. The sheltering, we just saw an influx of families, so we've had to move more to a transitional method for that.
Remarkable. Any other questions? One behind you. Yes. Sorry.
Kelly just wanted me to Wait, let me find my. She wanted to let everyone know that the Salvation Army Art has donated almost 22,000 books to Promising Pages to support children's literacy.
Wow. 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 Excellent.
ARC, that's our ARC, the unit over on Central Avenue, where the Drug and Alcohol Rehab Center.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Excellent. Any other questions? Any last questions? All right. Excellent.
Thank you all so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for being here. And Todd, for your being here today, we understand this is a mug for you to put your Gatorade in when you're playing pickleball with Amarja. Apparently, Amarja and Todd are a mean pickleball team. So, also, Todd, if you would draw a charity raffle, that would be great. If you don't mind pulling one of those tickets out and reading the last 4 digits, please.
8641.
Let me
8641.
give me 1 second. What do you do with my ticket? Oh, right there. We have a winner. We have a winner. Let's put in the blue bucket. There we go. Put the profits in the blue bucket. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And today is going to be very easy to figure out who. Todd, it's going to be very easy for us to figure out what we're going to be donating to. So we'll be making a donation to the Salvation Army. So anyway, excellent. Again, remember next week, social at Ladder Park. So please be there, bring a guest. We're going to be slowly transitioning inside, so it'll become a little bit easier. But in the meantime, please bear with us. I think this lavalier mic is going to be the ticket now. So this thing is giving good sound to you all out there in online world. No complaints anymore, no feedback. Okay, good. Okay, good. Romi's on there. I have a harsh critic online. You should have heard her feedback earlier. It was couched in very loving terms, but it was feedback. So with that, we have, if you would all stand and for the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, third, friendship. Fourth, and fifth. Amen. Excellent. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for putting up with this hybrid and